And welcome back to Bros in a Landfill, the only podcast whose name somehow makes less sense than Kingdom Hearts. What? Uh, your host for this week are Trybien, and then I also got Lunchbillion here to spread the good news of Kingdom Hearts, the best video game series in existence. Clearly,
I think it's a pretty simple title, actually. I mean, we're bros slash homies, and our show's terrible.
I mean,
It's very straightforward.
it's fair. It's where it belongs in the landfill, the trash zone. So, I've got lunch with me this week to talk about a certain game we brought up during our Super Monkey Ball guide and Let's Plays, which, if you haven't checked out, why aren't you? Lunch and I have been like watching Tar play this game for hours, and if we have to suffer, so do you. And also, it's really cool and has cool music that sometimes gets us copyrights noticed. So who cares? If so Kingdom Hearts. So if I remember, I was talking to Lunch about just that the games are like good, like
Sure.
convoluted, absolutely superbly convoluted, but really good. Uh, I figure just walk him down the lane, like walk him down the history of the games, and like try to maybe convince him to check them out for himself without spoiling too much, obviously. Because if I want him to play, he doesn't want to see spoilers. Because okay, problem with that, a new game could probably come out and like rewrite like shit because Kingdom Hearts is just convoluted as hell. It took like I think we're like 10 games in and like we have like three like we're on the third numbered entry. Maybe I'll actually pull up
That's true, because, like, a large percentage of the series is just weird spin offs and, like, phone games and GBA things, right?
which are all canon.
Which are all important. Which
Yeah.
is something I think is kind of neat in a sense. Like, Um, obviously, it sucks if the game you need is like really obscure and on some weird system from like 10 years ago that isn't available anymore. But like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it would be neat if in say Mario, like there was some really extended universe, and if like you hadn't played Mario Party 7, you wouldn't know who this new character was or something. I don't know. It's
Mhm.
kind of neat. Like maybe I'm just into sort of multimedia stuff. I just think it's interesting to have this
Yeah.
weird sprawling behemoth of a series.
Uh, Kingdom Hearts is one of those game series where it's really obnoxious if you're a kid because they release games on multiple consoles, and if you if you were like me as a kid, you didn't have a PlayStation, you had your GameCube, you had your Wii, you had your Game Boy, and your DS. So I went to my cousins like when I was over at my cousins in Indiana, and he had Kingdom Hearts 2, and the game was fucking lit. I think I mentioned this
Yeah.
on the Let's Play, but he was at the end of the game. He was fighting the final boss. I'm just like, look at all these colors on the screen flashing around, all this like awesome choreography, special effects. Like, like I didn't know what anime was at the time because I was that young. But
You were
it's like
innocent
you
then.
play. It's like you're playing a cartoon. Like Kingdom Hearts 2, for all intents and purposes, is fucking nuts to watch, especially when you get to like some of the boss battles and even the final boss. There's a point in the final boss where you have to mash two buttons repeatedly while you have a bunch of projectiles flying at you like you and your partner, and it's like you're just deflecting hundreds of thousands of energy beams coming at you. They're chipping away at your HP, but if you can hit X and triangle fast enough, you somehow survive that attack.
Right. Well,
Like,
like you were telling me that the first game is a little more platforming-y, and then as the
yeah,
games go on, they become more combat focused, right?
yeah. It's a bit of a mixed bag because each one thing about Kingdom Hearts is each game kind of is its own beast, but you can also kind of break things into, I would say, two different, like you have you're kind of more Kingdom Hearts 1ish games and you have more Kingdom Hearts 2ish games.
Sure.
And a lot of them I do find tend to lean further into the Kingdom Hearts one over the Kingdom Hearts 2. So Kingdom Hearts 2, as I was explaining there, is a bit more like you're playing a cartoon. It's very cinematic. You have a lot of set pieces.
Yeah.
It's very grand. Where Kingdom Hearts 1, you're still kind of like playing a cartoon, but it actually feels more like a game in the terms of, you have actual kind of game design and level design. It's
Right.
The combat's a bit slower. You don't have all these like transformations, and then you do have summons, but not to the same extent. One of the things that like really makes Kingdom Hearts really cool to play is you'll have it involves like quick time events and like special moves for your partners, which look like something that would be on a next gen, like the like for the PS2 like era. Like it's kind of nuts, like just how much cinematography is being done on
Hmm.
that console. And for the record, I played the original Kingdom Hearts 2 on the PS2, and it looks phenomenal.
Right. This is
Like
without any
it's
like special remastering or anything.
yeah, like, which makes me excited to play Kingdom Hearts 2 like on the HD collection because of course.
Sure.
But like if we were to I kind of want to just so I've said like I've mentioned like I first saw Kingdom Hearts 2 like at my cousin's house. So the first game I played was the DS one 358 over 2 days, which is a really weird place to start, but it was kind of the only place
Sorry,
I
what is
could
that
start.
called again?
358 over 2 days.
358 over 2 days.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So the
Continue.
game basically goes the game basically goes through 360 days of the character Rox. This is part like tenure at this organization, um and you it actually kind of plays the game goes day by day, which is kind of like the mechanic. So like you have like a it's
Okay.
basically it's kind of like that Persona sort of ask of like, oh, you have a schedule and you want to hit certain marks before each day.
Hmm.
Like now you don't have like social links or all that stuff, but it's the Kingdom Hearts Day on a calendar, and like it's it plays it plays a lot more like I think a mixture of Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. It doesn't have all the fancy cinematics for the battles.
How
And
much does this like time thing or this day system really play into the game?
oh it's I mean it's part of the narrative like in a sense like you actually like you'll have like so if we're talking about the day, like each day you choose like you choose a mission to do on each day, and you have like a certain amount of missions you have to complete before a checkpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And then on certain checkpoints you'll also be forced to face bosses. Like, oh, you have this very specific mission that happens on this day that you have to do.
I do
And then
kind
you'll
of
have like
like
different
this
cuts.
sort of time day format thing because like
Yeah.
I haven't played Persona.
Yeah.
But so this is gonna be a weird example, but I liked in Danganronpa how like you would choose on each day like who do I want to talk to and how
Yeah.
many activities do I want to fit into this space. I'm sure
Yeah.
there are other games
We're
like that I can't think of off the top of my head,
yeah.
but I think it's a cool
The,
idea.
yeah. What the one thing I will say like where like I appreciate a bit more than Persona is like Persona 3 onwards can be very stressful because you have like so many things you're managing. Where in Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2, it's pretty basic. Choose a mission to do each day. It's not like over like, oh, you have like all these like other like people and characters to try to socialize with or stat like specific social stats or whatever. It's just missions each day, and it plays out pretty smoothly. And I think the timer mechanic does a good job of making sure you're on track doing stuff.
But it's a bit
Like
low key. It's not anything. It's not like a
yeah,
crazy core mechanic. It's more of a
yeah,
like a light framing device, I guess.
yeah. That's definitely how I would put it. One of the cool things about 358 over 2 too is that it's the only Kingdom Hearts game with multiplayer.
Wait, there's a Kingdom
Like
Hearts game with multiplayer?
yeah, 358 over 2 has a co-op mission mode where you can play as any of the organization members and team up with like your friends to do like missions in the game.
Honestly, from what I've seen of like the basic gameplay in at least the later titles, like co-op seems like a no-brainer. I mean, it's you can't just
Yeah.
easily drop co-op into any game, but like it
Oh
seems
yeah.
exactly like the kind of game where you could do co-op.
Well, and I think being on the DS makes a lot of sense too because that's like
Oh, true, it's
like
on
you don't have to worry
DS.
about yeah, like you don't have to worry about any of like the you don't have to worry about any like multiplayer or split screen or whatever. It's like everybody's got their character. You're with this organization that has like 13 people, like 13 characters that people can
Yeah.
choose from. Like it's very. I feel like 3 over 2 is the game that was designed to really work with like a multiplayer like fun mission mode. I never got to
Sure.
play because I didn't have any friends with it, but that's beside the point.
I'm sure the other Kingdom Hearts games could easily come up with some reason why there's two Soras walking around.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I
yeah,
mean, I guess technically speaking, there's also like the only other multiplayer one would be the uh fucking gotcha game because
true, and that's
that's
canon as well.
yep. For the record, I've only played up to Dream Drop Distance, which was the 2012 release, and I've barely touched the gotcha game. I couldn't stand the combat, but
But you're not going to be
yeah,
able to fully comprehend the story.
I don't care. I can Google that shit. I'm not. It's not gonna matter anyways. By the time I get up to the Kingdom Hearts 3, it'll be Kingdom Hearts, uh, 3.2 big story changes.
I thought you were going to say Big Bang Theory.
I was gonna say Big Bang Attack.
Oh, that also works. I don't think either of those are Disney properties, but
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah. So, anyways, going back to the my experience with Kingdom Hearts. So I played 3 for the Over 2. I loved it. It might not be the best Kingdom Hearts game, but I think that the story it's just given it's a full game, you get to play as Roxas, which is like a character that you only get to really play as at the start of Kingdom Hearts 2. Like it's quite the it was quite cathartic, and going back like it's kind of unfortunate that the HD remasters only have the cutscenes for it rather than the actual game. But I also understand because upscaling a DS game to be on a PlayStation 3 and 4 is not the same thing as upscaling a PS2 game to 3 or 4.
Yeah, well,
Like
like you just
there's
have to accept that it looks kind of shitty and old. And I mean, I think some players would have been okay with that, but there's probably at least a few choices in there where you really would have
well
to
no but
change
I'm also talking
something.
about the combat as well because the DS only has I think only has does it have 4 buttons or 2 buttons? I forget. It's been a while since I've played my regular DS. But no, the DS has 4 buttons, but I get had a whole like second screen mechanic with your stuff. It's been a long time since I played Thrifty Ever 2. I apologize, but anyways, um, I I think it's just like I really loved Thrifty Ever 2, and it really got me into the series. So, uh,
Hmm.
what I did was I think I sold the story on the Gaiden as well. So I'm like, I want a PS3 for Christmas, and I want Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2 because I really like Kingdom Hearts. And I got my PS3, but it didn't play PS2 games.
Yeah, you were saying
So
in the Monkey Ball episode, it
yeah,
wasn't one of the backwards compatible ones.
yeah, like
What a
well, because
bummer.
it was the only original model of the PS3 that was backwards compatible, and they removed that backwards compatibility to drop the price. So
Right. Yeah, because I mean, at the
the
beginning of the generation, they were quite they were getting freaking a
they
lot
were
of
getting
shit for their
boned
price,
by
you know.
well, yeah, they were getting boned by Xbox, which was selling its games for much cheaper.
And
Well, it's
well,
like
they're
systems.
they're both being boned by Nintendo with the Wii at the time, at least in terms of console
Well,
sales.
I think I think it's kind of hard to make that comparison because the Wii was like the Wii was hitting an entirely different market than the PlayStation and Xbox were trying to hit. Like the Wii was very like hit such a weird range of like both appealing to kids, adults, grandparents. Like I mean, you had
I just meant that the Wii
like
was
nurse.
selling more, not that the Wii was taking
Yeah.
the same customers that would have bought the
Oh yeah.
PS3.
Well, I was just saying it's not like I don't necessarily think that Xbox or PlayStation really saw the PlayStation or saw Nintendo as like a character or they're getting boned by Nintendo because like the market differences between the consoles were entirely different.
Sure. I mean, I think
Like
that's
Nintendo,
arguably like to some extent the same now with the
yeah,
Switch.
definitely. Yeah,
And like just at risk of being too off topic, like I think all three of the system or like major game companies are gonna seem slightly more like their own kind of path in the next gen because they're all going for kind of
yeah,
different stuff.
yeah.
But anyway,
Which is also kind of concerning because if there's no real competition, who knows how that's going to affect the market?
well, I just think they're competing with each other in more creative ways. Um,
That's I
or
guess
like
I
they're
guess that's
offering different services, but in a in a competitive way. I don't know. This is a difficult
I don't know.
conversation to drop in the
I
middle of
know.
Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah. Yeah. So back to Kingdom Hearts. So I eventually got a used PS2 and I was able to play Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, which are like as I said before, much are entirely different games, but like both I like I love to weird extents. So Kingdom Hearts 1, you have the story of Sora, this boy on this island with his friends Riku and Kairi. Uh, they want to make a boat so they can go sail and see different islands and stuff. They want to see different worlds and whatnot. And that's kind of like the theme, like the overarching theme is um this desire to like break out and like break out, like gain power, like see more worlds. It's kind of like setting up this whole journey aspect. The eventually like these creatures called Heartless start showing up on the island, and the island gets destroyed. And I mean, not just the island, the whole world that they're on gets destroyed, and it becomes like this interdimensional, and like almost like space journey, because like you have all these different worlds they end up going to. Like so, Sora meets up, like gets yeeted to this place called Traverse Town, which is like a world where people whose worlds destroy end up, and that's where he meets our
Bummer.
Disney heroes, Mickey, Goofy, and Donald, and they're off trying to find Mickey.
Oh,
And
worlds have been destroyed.
uh,
That's a bummer.
fuck, that was awful.
That
That
was
was
almost the
embarrassing.
words.
Yeah. So
Great improv we
so
just did.
so we have these like travelers. So Donald and Goofy are looking for King Mickey because King Mickey is the king of Disney World, and Sora is separated from Kairi and Riku, and he goes out searching for them. All in all, like during this journey, they hop over to different Disney worlds because like uh, I mean, obviously for this journey. And on the way, Sora learns about these things called the Princesses of Heart, and there's this whole like evil Disney people trying to go around and kidnap the Princess of Hearts so they can summon this thing called Kingdom Hearts.
Sure.
And Kingdom Hearts, I'm not even going to try to explain it. It's basically this MacGuffin that like is like this all powerful light thing that gets summoned when you have like the all the Princesses of Heart.
Yeah, I mean,
And
from what I understand of Kingdom Hearts fans, like nobody fucking really knows what Kingdom Hearts
yeah.
itself is or is about or does. Not really.
Hmm.
Everyone's just like, ah, fuck, that part doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but it's called Kingdom Hearts. But you
It's
know,
it's it's whatever it needs to be. So Sora's on this journey.
it's a magical
I've
shifting
already mentioned
goalpost.
earlier that like yeah, I've already mentioned early in the game he also gets this weapon called the Keyblade, which is a blade that is also a giant ass key that he
Yeah.
can swing around. And it's the only thing that can hurt the Heartless.
What does it
Oh,
open?
speaking, uh, it opens like basically any door or any chest. Like
That's cool.
so, like, but like specifically, it's used to like lock the. So one of the other than just the Princess of the Hearts, the other thing they're doing is they're going through each world and securing the world. So there's like a big giant keyhole hidden in the world, and they need to lock that so the world doesn't get destroyed. So like there's this like multifaceted quest of, oh, I gotta find Kyra and Riku. Oh, Kyra and Riku. Oh, we have to find the queen. Well, the king. Oh, we have to also save all these worlds from the Heartless by locking the door so they don't get fucking boned.
Sure.
And then it's this wacky journey going, seeing all these cool Disney characters, platforming through all these like levels and puzzles. Like as I said in the Gynicast, like Kingdom Hearts 1, and I think give it it's a bit more platformy because of its limitations, but I also think that works to its favor outside of some really awful platforming sections. Like
Right.
the one of the early stages you go to is the Tarzan stage, like the jungle, and that has a lot of like vine swinging levels. So you'll be like going through. It's like, oh, you have these vines to swing on. You're swinging across, and you have to time those correctly, and you got to figure out your way through it. And like as you go through the game, there's like different stuff. But eventually, you finally meet up with Riku, and you find that Riku's been seduced by the darkness, because Riku wants more power to protect Kairi,
Okay.
and because like Kairi got her heart stolen, so he's like, oh, I want more power so I can blah blah, and he eventually becomes more and more of like the like your rival anti-hero antagonist sort of person. That's he becomes the Sasuke. Riku is
Yeah, that's
Sasuke.
what I was about
Okay,
to ask.
Riku is Sasuke, but less annoying and actually like and like actually like
Yeah, just as an
not as
aside, like
like
fuck Sasuke. That guy sucks.
he sucks, gay.
He sucks,
Man, so
gay.
Sasuke's character arc is a whole nother ball game. Like I don't even want to talk about like his like character arc through like Naruto to Shippuden to like
I mean, I
into
never got to
Boruto.
Shippuden. I was like 100, maybe 120, 150, something episodes into the original series.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
fuck
but
that
like
dude. What a little bitch.
yeah, but like fortunately, Kingdom Hearts is like while it does like share some like anime tropes, its convolutedness goes to a whole nother level. And I say that, but the first game's actually pretty straightforward. It's like typical hero's journey. Go through Sora, gets more powerful. He he learns the he learns the power of friendship, the power of heart, and stuff. And he eventually defeats Riku. Um, and then afterwards, the real big bad who like seduced Riku into the darkness, this guy named Ansem pops up and he has like a big dumb demon thing and it's like popping out of his back. And you gotta go defeat Ansem because he's got the hearts from the Princess of Heart and he's trying to open up Kingdom Hearts. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna go stop Ansem. So you eventually go and you beat Ansem and it la di da di do. Then he summons Kingdom Hearts, but he doesn't it doesn't work out as he planned. And then you defeat him. He turns into some like giant battleship thing that you have to kill by flying around. Cool
Okay,
stuff.
that's unexpected. Continue.
Yeah, the final Ansem boss fight is quite something. And then the world starts like where they are starts getting split. Sora though finds Kyrie, like they get separated because of a world split. I think the justification is that because they found Kingdom Hearts, the worlds are starting to restore. So the area they are is splitting up because it's not supposed to be like it is or whatever.
Okay.
So like they're like in two different worlds, so they get separated. And uh also Mickey shows up and saves the day, of course. So
Thanks,
now it's
Mickey.
so it ends off kind of like where we start, but this time Sora's stronger. He's like, well, I'm separated from Kyrie because of worlds being torn apart. Now I need to go and search for her again. And Goofy and Don are like, oh, we gotta go find the king.
Can
And
you
then
imagine like
whoop de doo.
playing through this game, like having never heard of Disney before, and just like Mickey comes in and saves you at the last second. And you're like, who the fuck is this guy, and why is he important? He was like a random NPC from the beginning of the game. Why is he the one who saves the
Yeah.
day? What's the significance of this fucking mouse? Is
Well,
he a
the other
mouse?
thing, well, think about being someone who's like really into Disney, but like not knowing anything about Final Fantasy and having the Final Fantasy characters show up in the game, like and not knowing who they are. It's like, who are these characters?
Well, I mean, yeah, right. It'd be like I missed this fucking Disney movie. I Advent Children. I never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Well, that's the funny thing because it is the Advent Children version of Cloud that shows up. I'm pretty
Right.
sure.
Well, that's a cartoon movie, I guess. Um no, it's weird. Like I feel like we take for granted like how bizarre it is that there's like a combination of super over the top convoluted anime and like Disney's characters. Especially cuz like I mean this is a topic I'd like to touch on maybe another episode or video, but
Hmm.
I like it when companies are less super precious about their brands. I feel like the further we
Yeah.
move into the future, like the more like what Mario or Mickey Mouse can look like and do is more like heavily restricted because they don't want to break like
You,
you know their company policy or whatever. But like it was cool when they could just fuck around with, like I feel like you'd never see a Final Fantasy cross Mickey Mouse thing would never happen if it was a new idea now. Like it's only
yeah. No, you're
happening
right.
because they came up with a long time ago and it's an established franchise. Like
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look at like Paper Mario. Like when they made that game, that was a completely out of left field idea. Um
Yeah.
and now it's yeah, now there's paper and like Luigi's
Well, they.
Mansion and stuff. These are games that
Well,
we
it's
take
kind of.
for granted. But like
Well,
where's the new version of like Luigi's Mansion? Like where's like Mario's fucking scuba adventure? Like they wouldn't do that now.
well, it's funny because Paper Mario only exists because they couldn't get the permission to do Final Fantasy meets Mario again.
Well,
Because like Super Mario RPG was essentially Final Fantasy Mario. There's like I think there was like some Final Fantasy or some Square Enix character
yeah, well, I think
like
Square
that
Enix
was like a
made Mario RPG.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
and that's why we don't. And that's why we haven't gotten Gino and Smash.
I think some of those characters are technically Square characters. Um,
Yeah, yeah, Gino's owned by
but
Square.
like I feel like they would just fuck around more. And like yeah, let's do this with this character. Or let's try that. Um, and I think that's a bummer. And so like Kingdom Hearts is objectively absurd and ridiculous, but I think it's awesome that it exists. Like people can complain all they want about like how convoluted it is or how bizarre it is, but like I think the gaming world is richer and more interesting for having a Kingdom Hearts. Like you've got all these games with their normal plots, and then you've got one plot where like the guy who made it is like off his rocker and on like a different level from like normal people. And he's like, this is a normal story. This makes sense. And everyone else is like, what the fuck is this? And we get to like be bewildered and intrigued by like some madman's fucking idea. And like the fact that this crazy convoluted game has Mickey Mouse in it is insane. It's
Did you know
absolutely
that
insane. There's
did you know the
Frozen
original
related to this shit.
Did you know the original concept had Sora wielding a chainsaw rather than a keyblade?
That would have been awesome.
And
That would have been
clearly,
awesome.
clearly we know why that wasn't put in, but still that would have been
I
hilarious.
just think I mean, Frozen or Aladdin or whatever. I don't fucking know. These are children's franchises that are on like backpacks and toothbrushes, and they're
Mhm.
in like the same like series that requires like an hours long YouTube video to like summarize the plot, and then you still don't understand what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, well, because you need far longer than an hour to explain what's going on.
Right, and I don't know. I think that's awesome. I mean, at least as an outsider. As a fan of the series yourself, I don't know if do you find the strangeness of and intangibility of the plot endearing, or do you wish it was a little easier to take in?
I think, I think at first yes, but it has reached a point where it's just straight up exhausting.
Right.
Like, I think Kingdom Hearts is best when it's at its silly, like, and it's kind of like silly anime goofiness like when it's just being fun. I think at some point, and I can kind of pinpoint where that was, which is Birth by Sleep, where it kind of started to get overly convoluted, and then they started adding all this like lore and this backstory for these stuff that probably didn't really need that much explanation. Like, I would guess maybe like kind of like how like the whole like Star Wars prequels were started adding in all this backstory stuff that just made things even more
Sure. I mean, I guess if you're
confusing.
going to get invested into a continuity like that, um, then yeah, I totally understand why it would be like, oh, this is
It's
fucking up
because
a thing that I liked. Because I guess
well,
like
it's
if
cause,
you were saying that like the first game is maybe doesn't explain everything, but isn't like the most convoluted game ever. Um,
well, and but that's kind of the first game feels like a Disney movie. It feels like you're playing a Disney experience. It's very like like when you're watching a Disney movie, they don't explain all the magic, all the goofiness. It's you've got this ridiculous, silly concept or whatever, or
yeah,
there's like fairy tale, and that's kind of like Kingdom Hearts is kind of like a fairy tale journey. Like things aren't explained in fairy tales. It's supposed to be whimsical. It's supposed to be mysterious. It's supposed to be whatnot. And you still kind of get that in Kingdom Hearts 2. Things get a bit more complicated because they add a whole nother aspect of the creatures called the nobodies, but it works in with the canon that's already established. So it's like, oh, first game people lose their hearts like by like this dark force and whatever, and they become heartless. So well, what happens to the people whose heart like the nobodies in Kingdom Hearts 2 establish like answer like a single question, which is, well, what happens to the person after they lose their heart? Well, they're split into two beings, a heartless and a nobody. Okay, it's silly, but it still kind of works in with the whole over thing. You're not trying to over explain all this
yeah, it sounds
lore
simple
and
there.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like it throws some twists in there. It overturns some stuff from the first game, but it's still like the Disney stuff is still like the primary focus. Like it's still this journey of like, oh, we're trying to go through, find Kyrie, save these Disney worlds and whatnot. And then you get to um So I'll actually lead into this way. So if you beat a Kingdom Hearts game on Proud Mode, or you if you don't beat it on Proud Mode or higher, you can 100% complete the game. And then when you beat the final boss, you get a special cutscene at the um after the credits that give you a snapshot. Like it gives you like a preview of what's coming next. So like in Kingdom Hearts 1, it gives you a preview of kind of what's coming next, which is actually kind of funny because the preview that happens is stuff that happens in 358 over 2 days, which I don't know how intentional that was. It may have been like they intended to have that stuff in Kingdom Hearts 2, but whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and then Kingdom Hearts 2, its preview leads into um, uh, Birth by Sleep. By the way, I am completely skimming over Chains of Memories, which was the Game Boy game that got remade with PS1, well, the PS2 game's assets as Chains of Memories. Um, there's a lot of weird spoiler heavy stuff in there for Kingdom Hearts 2 that I don't particularly want to get into. Same reason why I'm not getting too deep into 358 over 2, but essentially it involves like Sora being led to this castle where he starts losing his memories and stuff, and like memories are starting. It's like the whole idea of Chains of Memories is Sora's like you're journeying through Kingdom Hearts 1 again, but through Sora's memories, they're all getting altered and corrupted.
Man, that's some
And
crazy like fucking. I don't know if it's sci-fi or
it's
what
definitely
do you
more.
call
It's
that?
more definitely. It's definitely more fantasy because it's done through like done through more of like a magic. Like
But
it's that
well,
you're
I guess what I'm
he.
trying to say is like there's something existentially scary and big
Yeah.
picture about that.
Oh yeah.
Like that seems like kind of a heavy place to
Oh
go
yeah. Oh
for
yeah. No,
Kingdom
definitely like
Hearts.
it is the tone and the mood and like the existentialism of Rechains and Memories that makes it a worthwhile experience. The card game combat actually isn't that bad, but it takes a bit to get used to.
But just
But
like it's
it's kind of funny because you're just a
because the original game is like a fun like cartoon like adventure like you're
yeah
saying. It's like a Disney movie. And then like
yeah
what if
it's
this guy started getting amnesia and his memory started getting ruined and like what the fuck? That I mean
yeah
that's kind
but
of
it's
awesome, but like who comes up with
I
that?
mean it's still kind of whimsical, but it starts adding in these darker themes to the series. And there were still some dark themes before, but it was still like, oh, just big bad guy trying to like spread darkness and find Kingdom Hearts or whatever.
Yeah, well I feel like this
Like
this weird combination of like fun stuff and darkness is maybe part of what makes
yeah.
people intrigued by Kingdom Hearts or what
Oh, I would
it's that
definitely say.
special energy, that special sauce.
Well, I think I think it's that balance that really sells it, which is why like the series does get kind of exhausting, because I think it starts taking itself a little too seriously as the series goes on. Like as it
Yeah.
starts focusing, I would say my biggest problem is it starts focusing more and more on like lore questions and establishing like becoming more of an anime rather than this beautiful amalgamation of Final Fantasy tropes and Kingdom Hearts, well, and Disney tropes.
Yeah.
Um, But so we're in Birth by Sleep, which is simultaneously my best, my favorite story in Kingdom Hearts, but it's also, I would say, where the story starts getting a bit like that's where Kingdom Hearts starts getting a bit
Fucky. Yeah.
fucky, yeah.
I feel
So
like
Kingdom Hearts,
the um m- what the writers of Kingdom Hearts are possibly good at doing is making something enigmatic and mysterious and like
yeah.
making you think there's like a lot out there. But maybe when it came time to follow through on a lot of these weird concepts they started, like they can only answer it with more questions.
Well, the problem that 358, well, the problem that Birth by Sleep created is that it made it seem like nothing established really mattered because anything could be pulled into um like anything could be like a Shyamalan-esque twist.
Yeah.
Like 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 Birth by Sleep as a prequel establishes a lot. Like it's a prequel story. It takes place before Kingdom Hearts 1 with a bunch of different characters that are now important
Right.
that were never even like hinted towards in the previous games. Like these are like it's like you have your Sora Roxas look alike because Roxas looks like Sora and Sora looks like Roxas, and now you have this other character that looks like them that's voiced by I think Roxas's voice actor. And then
Okay.
you have you have the Sasuke character, who like I would say he's less Sasuke than Riku, but it's still kind of like he's feeling gypped because he's like
The
because the
other
idea is that
Sasuke.
you have these three characters that are trying to become Keyblade masters. So they're under the training of like these two different Keyblade masters. So they're at funny enough, cat like the place that becomes Castle Oblivion. They're there and they're like, oh, like we're taking our Mark of Mastery test because we must become Keyblade masters to be able to fend off the darkness because um I forget what the enemies are called in this game, but they're the heartless lookalikes. Like they're just like they're basically heartless, but they're not heartless. And so like they're trained to fight off the powers of darkness. The Aqua, the blue-haired girl, passes the mock mastery test, and she becomes like the she's the one that's recognized. Um, Terra, which was the strong buff guy, the kind of like the Sasuke character. He doesn't pass it, and therefore he gets resentful, and then he's like, oh, I'm gonna go try to become stronger, and then that leads him to be seduced by he not necessarily
The
he doesn't get seduced
dark
like
side.
he well he doesn't fall into the dark side like unlike Riku he doesn't become bad, he just becomes he's kind of like easily tricked along these series of things where he's eventually so the term is called Xehanorted. I will not give you any explanation of what that means because that's heavy spoilers, like
Okay,
heavy spoilers. But
got it.
he gets so like one of the big bad guys in the game is like named Xehanort.
Okay.
Um,
So Xehanort Xehanort's
he's
him.
yeah Xehanort's him, and and that's very important for the other games. And then you have Ventus, who is your Sora Roxas lookalike, who's he's too he hasn't he's I think the idea he's a mixture of an amnesiac slash this is me pulling back memories from years ago, but essentially he's like the new guy. He's got like a big heart, but he's still like weak and like he's still training and learning. And the what makes Birth by Sleep really interesting as a game is that it's got three different campaigns, which means you're playing through the same game three times, but each of the time you go to a world, you're viewing it from a different perspective, and there's different challenges. You essentially face the same bosses every time, and you deal with a lot of the same shit every time, but it's different perspectives from each character, and it keeps it interesting for each one. So that's actually one thing I can say really cool. It's like despite the fact that you're going through the same worlds like three times, like it keeps it interesting each time because you're playing it with three different characters with three different, completely different stories.
Do you think it would have been easier for them to tell a story that actually like connects better if like they weren't constantly sidestepping to like a new group or a new like it seems like they just make a new game with however they like and then find a way to connect it after. Like it's not like in most games where it's like okay, here's Kingdom Hearts 1, here's 2, here's 3, here's 4. Um it's like in this you're talking about like here's like three other people that are completely
Um,
unrelated to the first ones.
uh, I'm gonna say this: Kingdom Hearts is whatever Kingdom Hearts needs to be. So
Right, and like there's like
I
rhythm
don't,
games and shit, like that.
no, no, I don't, I don't think, I honestly don't think Kingdom Hearts has any grand plan in the writing. It's just whatever cool idea comes up next.
Right.
Like they leave threads there that they can work with to tie things together. But like, okay, let
It
me
just
give
seems
you
like a
a
really
really
bold
good
style where they like try and they're constantly leaving themselves massive holes to fill. Um,
yeah.
but maybe that's part
Well,
of the design.
I think that's part of the design because it keeps people intrigued without them ever actually needing to like it makes it flexible enough where they can just make whatever game they want while keeping people intrigued about what might happen next.
I think Kingdom Hearts is just lost.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I would like Kingdom like here's how I put it. Kingdom Hearts gameplay wise peaked in Kingdom Hearts 2 because that's when it was still like like a fun challenge with a lot of pizzazz.
Yeah.
Um Birth by Sleep's combat isn't bad, but it's very very easy to cheese. There's one of the mechanics in Kingdom Hearts 2 is this thing called I think it's called shot put or whatever. Basically you lock onto a bunch of people and you just fire off a bunch of bullets. And when you're playing as Aqua, who has the weakest attack, but she has the strongest magic attack, you can essentially go through the entire game just spamming that. And like on the hard difficulty, you can just go through and just spam every boss using that. And it's pretty easy. Like I I guess for record, Ventus and Terrace final bosses, I had to beat like level 49, 50 to beat them. Aqua's final boss, and you play as Aqua during the true final boss, like after you beat all three of the campaigns. I was like level 35, beat the true final boss, and like without like barely taking any hits, just because she's so easy to cheese the game with.
Yeah.
Um, Birth by Sleep, I think no, Birth by Sleep uses I think Kingdom Hearts. I don't know if Coded, because Coded was the first phone game that got remade into a DS game. I don't know if it started this mechanic, but it uses this mechanic where you build a deck of skills, kind of like the cards, but rather than like it being a card, like you have like just cooldowns for each attack. You build your loadout, your deck of skills, and what Birth by Sleep does that's really cool is that depending on which skills you use, it this bar fills and your Keyblade changes in different forms and gains different attacks and different passives based off the attacks you did. And if you use certain ones a certain amount of times, like you'll get like this big awesome attack at the end.
Yeah.
But it makes the game feel very trivial at times. Um, and also like it doesn't really like I feel like just two still has a better combat. But funnily enough, like it seems like my favorite like stories to go through are the ones that just crib off the first game. So coded slash recoded, similar to Chains of Memories, is just an excuse to have the player play through Kingdom Hearts 1 again.
Sure.
But instead of this being a game where you're in Sora's in this castle and he's losing his memories and you're going through these doors to revisit these worlds. So one of the Disney characters that goes along on your journey is Jiminy Cricket, and he takes a log of everything that happens.
Yeah.
And when you get to coded slash recoded, it turns out that there's like some corruption in the book. So you go to this scientist guy, and he's like, "Well, we need to send Donald and Goofy into the logbook to find the corruption." And inside there, they meet another Sora lookalike, because it is Sora, but it isn't Sora. It's Data Sora. Yes, throughout Recoded, you're playing a data recreation of Sora going through the original Kingdom Hearts again.
Okay.
But this
it's
time,
a simulation.
there are, but yeah, it's a simulation of the first game. But this time, there are data corruptions, and the gimmick is like, oh, you have like these like a bunch of weird data blocks showing up, and you have to break them. And there's like these different like corrupted like areas you go into, and you have to like beat enemies and stuff. It's essentially Kingdom Hearts 1 again, but it also has this adds in that weird like similar sort of existentialism that the Kingdom Hearts Rechains Memories has, where it's Sora, like Data Sora learns that he's Data and he has to confront the fact that he's not real.
Damn.
Like it's like
that's way too fucking heavy. Oh my god. Awesome.
But it's also like the funny thing is also the same like despite the fact that Chains of Memories and Kingdom Hearts Recoded like have are just excuses to play through the story of Kingdom Hearts again. The amount of lore drops in those games are substantial enough that if you want to understand anything later, you have to still play through them.
See, like in
Like,
any other
Kingdom Hearts-
series, like they might make these spin-offs canon, but they wouldn't hold like crucial information to understanding what happens next. It's hilarious that they're willing to do that in some rhythm game.
The rhythm game has fucking lore in it.
That's
like-
awesome.
Yeah.
It's so dumb, but it rules.
Yeah. So, but with going into Recoded sets up Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Drop Distance, which by all means
Okay.
I love Dream Drop Distance. Drop Distance would be my favorite game if not for some serious gameplay flaws. Also, the story kind of dips in and out. So essentially, what you learn, like what's revealed at the end of Dream Drop Distance is, Recoded is like, I'm gonna do this. At the end of Recoded, it's like, oh, we gotta get Riku and Sora to take their Mark of Mastery test, and Dream Drop Distance is one of the two prequels into Kingdom Hearts 3.
Wait, you
so-
haven't? So what? You haven't played the third one, right?
I have not played the third one, but
Okay.
it's like this is like what Sora and Riku are doing right before Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you have there's a 2.8 final chapter prologue, which is the Kingdom Hearts 3. So I guess that actually makes a lot of sense because so you have essentially two like prologues to 3. You have Dream Drop Distance, and then you have this I forget, I don't know exactly what it's called, but in final chapter prologue 2.8, there's a mode where you're playing as Aqua, following the events of Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, and both of those games lead into Kingdom Hearts 3. There's also a movie with some real lore drops that I haven't watched yet on there.
Dude,
So
like
like
you've been like the
so
Kingdom Hearts historian here, and there's still like the next big steps of the franchise that you get to experience. Aren't you excited for Kingdom
yeah, I'm
Hearts
super
3?
excited. Yep. So, anyways, Dream Drop Distance. The gimmick of Dream Drop Distance is that Sora and Riku are having to take their Mark of Mastery exams, such just as they like the characters in Birth by Sleep did.
Yeah.
So the way that they're doing this is, they have to go into the dream worlds and wake up these sleeping worlds. So, like, this, I'll just let that sit for a bit. So like, um, Yen Sid, the great Disney sorcerer, helps them fall asleep and go into these dream worlds. And you take turns playing as both Sora and Riku. And each of these worlds, it does the birth by sleep sort of thing where you're seeing the same story from two different perspectives.
I would like to call
But
that the Sonic Adventure thing, personally. But continue.
uh, but what Dream Drop Distance does that's both kind of cool and very frustrating is you have very little control over when you switch characters.
Oh.
There
So it's
is
less you get to
there
play
is
as Riku, more like you have to play as Riku.
Yeah.
Oh.
And playing as both of them is fun. The stories are still fun to go through, but having that power stripped away from the character. Now you can use items to um elongate that time. There are parts where you can just like choose I'm going to choose the switch now and whatnot. But essentially you have this timer ticking down as you're playing through the game. So you're in this constant situation where it's like, shit, well, I've got shit I need to do, but I only have so much time to do it. And if I don't, I'm going to have to go through these areas again. And and it's a shame because Dream Drop Distance does have some like it explores some worlds like I mean it's the only game with fucking uh Hunchback of Notre Dame, and that's a pretty cool level.
There you go.
Uh, it actually lets you explore Pinocchio's world. So like in Kingdom Hearts 1, Monstro, like you can go inside, like you get the ship gets swallowed by Monstro and you have to like do shit inside the whale. But in Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, you actually get to see Pinocchio's world, and like it's not just, you're inside a whale. And but Dream Drop Distance in a lot of ways does make the story a lot more uh Dream Drop Distance seems unnecessary, but it also has probably like the most fun mechanic in the series. Like
The most fun
so
mechanic?
yes, Dream Drop Distance has fucking hardcore parkour. It lets
Oh,
you
hell yeah.
essentially there's this it lets you just like bounce around the stages, fly around and shit, and like it does the same thing as 358 over no it does the same thing as what should I call it uh like it's the same thing as like the shot put in Birth by Sleep does where it trivializes um it kind of trivializes the comic because like you don't actually have to like do like, I have to dodge, I have to attack on time, I have to use skills at the right time. Like you like sometimes yes you'll have to do it, but a lot of time you can just fucking bounce around and do the special parkour moves that it lets you do to trivialize combat to the nth degree.
Sure.
Also, it completely destroys any platforming in the game because you just bounce off walls to gain height.
Damn it, parkour. You're supposed to be awesome.
Like, on one hand, it's really cool. Like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to play that like on the big screen. Like for the record, I really like playing on the 3DS. I'm one of the few people that actually used the 3D and enjoyed like having like the depth perception and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a gimmicky weirdo like that. Don't at me.
I liked it
Like
occasionally,
play.
but I mostly played with it
Yeah.
off, I think.
Yeah. Um. Also, Kingdom Hearts 3D had a pet mechanic where like kind of like recruited these like nightmare dream creatures into your party, and they did it. They were your party members instead of the Disney characters in the other games. Which is both sad because having the Disney characters was fun, but it's also like, you're training these monsters. You have like skill trees for these dream creatures.
I feel that
I
that's
think they're called dream eaters. Yeah.
like a recurring kind of idea in JRPGs. I feel like Dragon Quest has it, and I feel like I've seen like a
Yeah.
couple different versions of that idea.
Yeah, but like all the Dream Eaters are really cute. Some of them have better skills than others, but like, in general, having like it was a nice mix up to the mechanic because typically speaking, you didn't really have much control over your party members. It's like, oh, you have a party member, you can give them items and you can select skills for them, but
Right. Well, I
essentially
guess
there
like
are
there's only so much you can do with like a Disney character as an NPC because or as a as
yeah.
as like a teammate because like well obviously you just have less creative freedom than if it were some
Or you
weird
can
monster you just made up.
or you can be in the case of Kingdom Hearts 1 where you can fuck yourself over because you keep using the Disney characters rather than Donald and Goofy.
Right.
Because here's the frustrating thing. In Kingdom Hearts 1, only the party members out get EXP. But on the final, like at the final stretch of the game, like Donald and Goofy are your like there are parts of the game where Donald and Goofy have to be your party member,
Yeah.
and if
So if you haven't been
you've
training them,
neglected,
then they're fucked.
yeah, well, especially because like Donald like learns like really strong magic moves, and Goofy's like your big defender person.
Real quick,
Like,
I've only got like a couple minutes left to remain on
yeah,
this
no, we gotta
episode.
go. Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, I've kind of covered the series up to where I've gone.
okay.
Like,
Well, is there any
it's
way you
it's
want to what have you been building to, man? What's the
I've
pitch?
been what I've been building to is Kingdom Hearts is a long, frustrating, arduous journey, but it's some of the most magical game experiences you'll see. Like the combat is like always like I would say the combat in one isn't the most fun, but at the same time I think one has like the best platforming and like it's just a very charming experience. Uh
It's a slightly more
but
innocent Kingdom Hearts, I think,
yeah.
than what the
But
rest of
like
the
if you
series
like
eventually becomes known for.
but like Kingdom Hearts like in general is just so much fun. It's like maybe like the game that like the first game doesn't have the most tight combat, or it's not entirely beginner friendly. But there's always like so much to do. There's always like a bunch of like super secret final bosses that are incredibly difficult but super satisfying to do. There's all these like secrets to uncover and find. There's a the stories are always really fun to engage with. There's always, as I said, they've got like those like kind of like Shyamalan-esque twists all the time where it's like, oh, there's this big reveal about something that you didn't expect, and it's like, oh my god, like it's like you're playing an anime, or in the first game's case, you're playing a Disney movie with some like a Disney anime movie.
Yeah.
But like the games just ooze confidence, ooze excitement, ooze like even like when they don't have the graphical capability to pull that stuff off, they're always backing it up with some other like moodiness or existential dread, like very well directed games. Maybe the direction of the series is a bit wonky. Like if you look at the whole series of an overall, but like if you look at any individual game, like the whole experience of going through it is kind of nuts. Like like I I would highly recommend even playing like the DS games. Like don't watch the fucking cutscenes that were provided in the HD remakes. Actually go out of your way and play the fucking DS games because it's worth it. Like
Sure. Well,
like
it's
yeah.
interesting how like you're saying there's like 10 Kingdom Hearts games and like 3 mainline ones and like the series is almost more about its weird little side steps than like the main
Hmm.
course. Um
Yeah,
and
well,
they're all
I
interesting in their
haven't
own
heard
little weird ways.
I haven't heard the best things about Kingdom Hearts 3, especially like with the DLC and stuff. And then moving into doing a rhythm game with like I think a Kingdom Hearts rhythm game is a great idea. I just don't know how I feel about there being lore in there because not everybody's into rhythm games.
Well, welcome to fucking Kingdom Hearts, dude.
Also, welcome to 2020.
It's a weird time. But
It-
and
I
like
was
also like the further we go into the future, like the more weird property like fucking Sora's gonna be able to walk into Star Wars sooner or later, you know?
I am honestly surprised it took this long to get a Final Fantasy rhythm game. Well, not Final, a Kingdom Hearts rhythm game, considering that we had Final Fantasy rhythm games on the 3DS. Like this isn't like
Well, Kingdom Hearts
it's
likes to
not
show up
surprising.
fashionably late sometimes.
You know what? I can't argue like I'll argue with that one bit because like it took nearly 20 years for Kingdom Hearts 3 to come out.
Dear God. Man,
Yeah,
sometimes being a fan of long-running franchises is like so terrifying. Just to think about, like, man, I can't wait for the next game when I'm 34. Oh no. Oh
okay,
no.
just for the just leading off this, like the collection before Kingdom Hearts 3 came out was 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue. Kingdom Hearts 3 isn't the final chapter in Kingdom Hearts. It's been all but like it's been confirmed that the story is continuing on. It's just this like chapter in Sora's story is over.
Like, Sora's still gonna be like a young man or old boy by the time you're fucking like, you're in your 50s. Sora's gonna still be the
Okay,
same age.
okay, I know the perfect thing to end this on.
Okay.
Just to give the point is like how long the series is going on. Haley Joel Osment voices Sora.
Yeah.
In 2000 like between the game coming out in 2002 and uh like so into like and Kingdom Hearts 2 coming out in 2005, his voice dropped. So and it makes sense. Okay, Sora's a bit older in Kingdom Hearts 2,
Yeah.
but as the games go on and they revisit like younger Sora, like they revisit Kingdom Hearts 1, it's still Haley Joel Osment voicing the character, but with his Kingdom Hearts 2 deep Sora voice.
Well, yeah,
Like
right. Well, like,
because he can't get
yeah,
but
the series is like it's limited by actual fucking reality.
yeah.
That's
I know,
scary.
but that's the kind of the thing I'm going on. It's like this series like even between like it took 3 years for between 1 and 2
Yeah.
to come out. And then 2 years like and then the next like new game to come out after that like was Chains of Memories, which was 2 years later, which is a remake of the 2004 Chains of Memories. But between Kingdom Hearts 2 and Coded, which was the first phone game, that was I think that was like another 3 years, and then 358 over 2 was it's like you just see like these chunks of time where just games are being released. Like between 2007 and 2010, there were 5 games released in between 2007 and 2010. None of them were Kingdom Hearts 3.
Well, okay, so
And then between two,
we will
and then
all
between
Sora will outlive all of us, you know. We will never,
and
by the
then
time we
between
get to like the final chapters of his story, like it'll be like 4 generations of kids removed from us, like having their formative experience with Kingdom Hearts 4, and like all the properties that Sora like interacts with in the final game are gonna be cartoons we didn't grow up with. They're gonna be some weird new shit we don't even understand. It's
I mean Kingdom Hearts 3 doesn't even have any Final Fantasy characters in it. Like
Yeah, dude. Final Fantasy's not big anymore. It's all about the
uh
fucking Frozen and shit.
got gotta let it go. Let it go. I'm not gonna fucking sing this and get us copyright strike because this has been Bros in a Landfill. Signing off.
Later, homies.